up as we head through the work week and staying dry for a while, too. Sunshine today for our Monday as high temperatures climb back into the mid and upper 50s. We'll dip down into the low to mid 30s overnight and 60s on the way as we go into the middle of the week. Our next rain chance not creeping back in until we get later in the work week, Thursday night and into Friday. We'll be warm, too, by then. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Hey, this is Jeff McNeely, owner of G&M Milling Company in beautiful downtown Lowray. We at G&M hope you come by and see us for all your livestock needs. We stock feeds for all kinds of animals and hay too. We also have seed for a wide variety of forages for your animals. So come on by 4000 Taylorsville Highway, Statesville, or call us at 704-873-5758. We're worth the drive. Thank you again for supporting small family-owned businesses. God bless.
The following is a paid program and does not necessarily reflect the views of WSIC.
All systems are a go.
Ladies and gentlemen, hold on to your seats. Taking Care of Iredell with North Carolina State Representative Jeff McNeely is about to begin. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, Iredell County. Hope everybody's doing all right. I can tell you, it's a little brisk out there. I've been hanging out at the Board of Election here this morning, and dang if it didn't get cold. But we're wide open early voting right now. Got it to next 2 weeks. Matter of fact, the next 2 Saturdays, so Monday through Friday from 8 to 7:30, and then on Saturday from 8 to 3 o'clock. So, folks, there's no excuse. There's really no excuse to say that you couldn't get there and couldn't vote. We've given you all kind of time, so please come on out. Turnout, in my opinion, has been a little low, so we'd love to see you out there. And you know, because I'm a Republican, I'm actually going to have to get more votes than my competition if I'm going to win. So I need you to come vote. Got a couple people going to be guests today, and one of them's in the studio with me now. This is kind of held over from last week, and y'all are school district 6.
2.
2.
The new 2.
They changed them all around, and I don't know where it's all at, but I do know y'all got kind of more the east side of but I got Kevin Angel with me. Last week, Lakeitha Bobbitt come and spoke, and so I got Kevin today. So these are the 2 that are running in a Republican primary for school board, and so we get to hear the other side of the equation. And Kevin, glad to have you here with us. In the second part of the show, I'm going to have Courtney Marlowe. She's an assistant district attorney, and she's running for a district court judgeship, and has to be somebody that's a resident in Alexander, but they will both preside in Alexander and Iredell. I know, kind of confusing, but that's the way our district attorney district is Iredell and Alexander. So she's going to come talk to us second part. But Kevin, before we get in, I got to do a little housekeeping. I'll try to do it fast as I can. Folks, I know this sounds crazy, but Deborah, who always calls into my show, contacted me a couple of weeks ago, and I've been working on a little project for her. And evidently something's up with her home phone. So Deborah, if you're listening, call me after the show. Don't call me now because I'm busy, but call me after the show. I think I have a solution to your problem. And these are the things you do if you're a house rep. Also, real quick, our county commissioner, Brad Stroud, decided to go ahead and express his viewpoint on my race, and in a not a very flattering way to me. And like usual, once again, I feel like that he did not check his facts and doesn't really know exactly the whole equation, but yet was willing to spout off anyway. And pretty much everything that was in the article, not true. I had contacted people. The one thing that was true was the part about Joyce Bess, and that was an executive board decision, and I had COVID at the time, but I still was able to text in my vote, and I voted for Renee Holland. Joyce Bess, wonderful woman, great job for us. We appreciate her service. This was nothing against her. Renee Holland, dear friend of mine, her and her husband, we've gone out to eat many times together. I thought that Renee could do the job. Joyce was not sure if she could continue to run. So, but he wanted to throw that up in my face because that is a contentious issue to a point. But, you know, it's funny. She's now our register of deeds. So I think in the end, it all worked out like the Lord wanted it to and was supposed to. But if you totaled up all the votes that I casted for, me and others casted for Renee and Joyce, still would have lost Maureen Purcell by about 4 votes. So as the old saying goes, I was the center fielder when the pitcher threw the home run pitch and hit it over my head. I really couldn't do much about it. But, he wants to bring up something like that. That's fine. That's what he does. Anyway, maybe he should spend his time concentrating on why he raised your property tax by a third. He was one of the main ones that did that. So when you see him out at the polls working for my opponent, make sure you question him about that. Maybe that'll keep him busy because that's what he needs to be concentrating on, his job. Anyway, enough of that. Kevin gave me that look.
Yeah.
So, Kevin, let's get into it now.
That's
the beauty of having a radio show versus somebody putting something in the paper.
I understand. Yeah.
Get to handle things. So that's what we did. And I'm not going to give him any more of my airtime or space in the head or anything else. He can do his own thing. Let's go on and get into the questions, Kevin Angel. First thing I'm going to ask you, and these are the same ones, folks, that I asked Lakeitha last week. Who are you, and why are you running for school board?
Well, first, Jeff, thanks for having me on the radio show.
Very welcome.
Putting this out and giving us a space to kind of share about who we are as people. My buddies have always told me I got the perfect face for radio.
Me too.
So,
I hear
this
that a
is
lot.
working out good for me.
Yeah, we could be a tag team.
We could. But, no, thank you for creating this forum for us candidates to be able to talk about who we are and share that with the community. I'm a father. I got 2 daughters, and I'm a husband to my wife, Marcia. Our kids and we live in Cool Springs community.
Okay.
I moved to Statesville in 2008. Just started my career here, was offered a job at the Landmark Church of God as a student ministries pastor. I worked for a gentleman, Ken Hudson, there in that capacity when I first came to Statesville. Met my wife in that church, and Statesville became home after that. So I've spent the past 16 years of my professional life working here in this community, building relationships and raising my family. That journey has taken me throughout a professional career in children and family services. So if you go back to the beginning, mid-2010, 11, 12, I shifted from Christian ministry over into behavioral health, and I started working for the Barium Springs Home for Children, which most folks are familiar with here in this town. And then throughout the progressive development of my career, went from delivering services, being someone who actually worked with children and families, to being somebody who oversaw programs across North Carolina. So in various capacities, my professional career has had me serving kids in 50-plus counties in North Carolina.
Okay.
Me personally, what am I about? Like, who am I as a person? I grew up in Asheville, North Carolina, kind of humble beginnings. I've shared this with folks as I've been out kind of sharing about me in the campaign process. I feel like for my life, it's a sense of purpose and calling. That's where I got tied into the children and family services work. In our industry that I work in, we talk a lot about adverse childhood experiences. I definitely grew up and things weren't always easy. A lot of chaos as a kid. And so that's been a part of my personal journey, is to be a wounded healer instead of a wounded wounder, is kind of to not get too deep about it, but that's really where my sense of purpose comes from.
Cut the generational stuff off.
Yeah, like figure out, how do we get past poverty? How do we not be helpless? How do we be people who believe that no matter what your life circumstances are, you can do better and overcome, and you can take control of your life circumstances. And so that's really who I am. Why am I running for school board? Because I believe that all of that experience, like many others, has put me in a position to be able to support the district, to help the district achieve its goals, and to hopefully create that kind of future for all our kids who might be serving here, that might be attending school in Iredell County.
Okay. All right. Well, that's pretty good. So it sounds like you've been involved some way or another with children or the welfare of children pretty much all your adult life then.
Yeah, and even before then. I mean, I was when I was 16, I taught Sunday school to 12-year-olds and 13-year-old kids, and worked in some form of, for whatever reason, life has taken me down that path of helping other people, particular children and families, in all phases of life. So.
All right, I'll tell you what, the easiest thing to do is let's talk a little bit more about this, your personal life to a point, because we got about a minute till we get to the hard break. And the next question is a pretty big one, but I may read it right before we go, and then you got a little time to think about it, whatever. But so at Barium Springs, which is now called, what is it?
Children's Hope Alliance.
Yeah, Children's Hope Alliance. So you were there and kind of did program directing at it. Is that what you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
When I left there, I was the program officer overseeing programs across North Carolina. And then now I'm with the Children's Homes of Iredell County, which is a local organization that does similar work in the child welfare space, working with kids who are at risk, foster kids.
Okay. The next question coming up, folks, so stay tuned, is what do you see as the biggest obstacle facing public education in the future? So when we get back, Kevin will talk to us about that. So stay tuned. It should be real interesting.
Keep it right here. Taking Care of Iredell with NC Representative Jeff McNeely will return after this short break on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Well, after a chilly weekend, we're going to start to warm things back up as we head through the work week and staying dry for a while, too. Sunshine today for our Monday as high temperatures climb back into the mid and upper 50s. We'll dip down into the low to mid 30s overnight and 60s on the way as we go into the middle of the week. Our next rain chance not creeping back in until we get later in the work week, Thursday night and into Friday. We'll be warm, too, by then. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. MuralFest is back, April 25th through the 28th at Wilkes Community College, featuring nearly 100 performers, including Old Crow Medicine Show, Turnpike Troubadours, the Teskey Brothers, Nickel Creek, and more. Tickets and information at muralfest.org. Listen each morning to Good Morning LKN for your chance to win tickets. Downtown Mooresville's Shamrocks and Shenanigans is on its way. St. Patty's Day is right around the corner. The festival is happening in downtown Mooresville. Attendance is free, but there are ticket packages available for purchase. Irish dancers, pipe bands, food and drinks. March 16th, downtown Mooresville. Shamrocks and Shenanigans is on its way. For more info, visit downtownmooresville.com. Want to attend the Charlotte Home and Remodeling Show? Throughout the day, you have your chance to win tickets. Listen to Good Morning LKN, the Home Ad Show, the News Drive at 5, and the Scoreboard. Each gives you your chance to win. The Charlotte Home and Remodeling Show, February 23rd through the 25th. Want to see a Tyrannosaurus Rex? How about a Triceratops? Dinosaur World Live is coming to Kane Center for the Arts Friday, March 29th. That's not the only fun family adventure coming to Kane Center for the Arts. Dinosaur World Live, Friday, March 29th. For tickets and to see the entire spring lineup, visit canearts.org. That's CAINarts.org. Have an event you would like to tell people about? Yard sales, estate sales, and everything in between? Visit WSICnews.com and click on events to submit your event today.
For 42 years, Johnson's Parts and Supply has been your Auto Plus auto parts store. When you need auto parts, think Johnson's Parts and Supply. Your Auto Plus auto parts store, 1112 Shelton Avenue, Statesville.
Now, more Taking Care of Iredell with North Carolina Representative Jeff McNeely on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Hey, this is Representative Jeff McNeely back with candidate Kevin Angel running in District 2.
District 2.
Yep, got that right. Finally, all right. So, and I think there's another one, but we're not going to worry about that primary. That's some other people that don't count. No, I'm just teasing.
Not
y'all.
as competitive.
That's right. That's right. So we're back, and the question was, when we took our break, what do you see as the biggest obstacle facing public education in the future?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the first thing that comes to my mind is the recruitment and retention of qualified teachers. You know, we really have to, when you think about all public health issues, for me at least, when I think about public health issues, when I think about our society and the cultural wars, I think parenting and then raising children and then educating children is like the number one protective factor that we can put in place as a society. And so I send my daughters every day to public school where they spend a lot of all their waking hours, Monday through Friday,
with somebody else.
That's somebody that ain't me,
Yep.
right? And so the people that are in those roles who are influencing the belief systems, the values, the skills that my daughters have, they need to be people who I trust, respect, who are highly competent in what they do. They're trained well, supported, and valued within the district. And that's, to me, I think that's one of the top issues that we've got to support and is a challenge that public schools across the country are facing.
Well, the big thing, too, we see, and we've raised teacher pay, but everybody else has raised their pay in all the other different professions. So how do we attract these kids in? It's really hard. And then also, how do we keep the teachers we got in it without leaving, going somewhere else? So, education is no different than hardly any other industry right now in the country in that we can't find the qualified labor force that we really want.
Right.
So it's not going to be easy. And, in General Assembly, we tried and talked with Dale Falwell, the treasurer, about letting some of these teachers who retire at 20, 25
retire
years
and come back.
And we're still working on that. So Dale's out, so we might get somewhere with that maybe.
It's interesting you bring that up. So my mother-in-law taught in Iredell County for over 30 years, Maria Moore. She probably taught some of your listeners.
Yeah.
And she retired and then came back, taught for another, I don't remember if it was 5-6 years, something like that, on a part-time capacity, had a co-teacher, another retired teacher. And when you talk about how do you retain and support teachers, I mean, I think you got to have mentorships. My mother-in-law would be a great coach and support to a young teacher coming up. And I would be very supportive of that program, not just from a place of finding vacant teachers, but from the place of supporting the next generation of educators to say, hey, look, here's how you build your Teflon coating to deal with challenges that come up. Here's how you build resiliency and adjust to the changing parental landscape in our country with your kids. I mean, it used to be that if a kid had an issue in a classroom, a teacher called a parent, and a parent comes in and works with the teacher to work that out, as opposed to kind of working sometimes in conflict with teachers. And I think we could establish more trust in those relationships if we had some good mentors, some of our more tenured teachers to be able to come back. And so I think that's a part of what I would support and understand. I think, too, teaching fellowships is a good thing.
Yeah.
Being able to find ways to say, hey, we can help young teachers pay for their education if they're willing to work in, schools that have higher needs. I think that's a good thing. The other side of that question that I didn't answer a minute ago that I think is important and I want voters to know is I think public schools really have to focus on career development for our students as well.
Yeah,
and that's
workforce
development on two sides. And, in my current role at the Children's Homes of Iredell, we have a workforce development program we run out of the Special Treasures organization here in Statesville that many of you maybe shop at the retail store. But what you don't know is most of the kids in that program have aged out of foster care. These are kids that we're teaching skills that we're helping them gain, learn financial literacy, learn how to deal with customers, learn how to interview, learn how to deal with conflict in the workplace. And so, I've got a certain population I work with in my day job to try to develop them in the workforce, but our education system has to be highly focused on that as well. We've got all this industry and economic development in Iredell County. We need to be able to say to those businesses and corporations, you put your kid in a public school in Iredell County, they can come work for you in 4 years.
Yeah.
And they can be some of the most talented workers that you have because they're a part of this community that's really all tides are rising in the work that we're doing in education and industry. And there's a relationship between those two things.
Well, like I said, on the county commission level, and I was there, and we'd go out and recruit. And you bring business in, one of the first things they said, well, you got the workers, and I know we go, oh, yeah. And then I just think in the back of my mind, please, Lord, let us have the workers, please.
Yeah. Well, it's all tied together. If you want to move to a community and you care about it, it's like, why would I want to move to a community? Well, there's good work there. There's also good culture there. People get along. They understand how to get work done. Schools are high quality. They have a reputation for excellence. It's return on investment for dollars spent, but it's also like, do your kids excel in academics? Do you see them winning? Athletic teams successful? I mean, there's a stature that comes with that.
Oh, yeah.
And I love the people who say, let's make Iredell County, the most successful, prosperous place in the state. I love that. That's what I'd want to be known for.
That's what I'm all about. So, leave it better than I found it.
Sure.
Always. That's the same probably with you. All right, here's the next question. Should the school board and administration be involved in the school building process other than identifying the areas where they're needed and how many students they should accommodate? So how you feel? Because that's always been a contention between the school board and the county commissioners.
Yeah, I understand. I think that's so to answer the question directly, I do think the school board has to be involved at a deeper level. With that being said, that doesn't mean, because two things can be true at the same time, it needs to be that they're involved, but that also means that we have to have collaboration, direction, partnership with the people who are paying for the buildings and who are the fiduciaries who have a responsibility over all of our dollars and cents. as taxpayers. But absolutely, the school district can give critical input on like what the design needs to look like. I mean, the modern media center is different than what I grew up with, and I'm sure what you grew up with too.
We didn't have a media center.
Yeah, you had a library, right?
Yeah.
Right. And I this is kind of maybe lighthearted, but I grew up in the generation. I was in school in the late '80s with no internet, right? Card catalog, green screen, Oregon Trail. Then I lived through the '90s where we got the internet and the media centers and digital books and all that. And so I saw the transformation that technology brought through my lifetime as a student. And so school districts have to be able to give input on those sorts of things. What do the spaces need to look like? We teach our kids principles like closest to the problem, closest to the power, no change about me without me.
Yeah.
And those are kind of, idealistic. But, when you take that to adults, you need to have buy-in from the people who are ultimately responsible for overseeing that too. What I wouldn't want to see is one entity then driving all the decision making, and then the next one use that then to say, well, let's differentiate between what you did and what we need, and that's a problem too.
Right.
What I think is the adults got to get in a room on both sides of that table and work together. There's got to be restoration. If there's conflict, there's got to be trust and credibility built with the board, the school board, to the county commissioners. We didn't get a project across the finish line, own that, and then move forward with the next thing and get it done on time. Solicit the feedback. Take ownership for the mistakes and move forward. I think those are all things that all of us have to teach kids to do, and us grown-ups got to do it too.
Well, I think the big thing too is doing a better job of forward projecting. I think we look at 5 years maybe instead of looking at 25 years.
Yeah.
Get prepared.
There's a lot of data that can help us too. We know what the population growth is looking like in Iredell County.
Yeah.
That information comes out. Let's work with especially our corporate sector, because I think there's money for public-private partnerships to emphasize things like STEM.
Yeah.
Get people with dollars behind this, and that helps with not just paying, but also public awareness for the need. These aren't things that we should be surprised that the problems are coming up. Like, that's where I really feel responsible as someone who, if I was to serve, is I have a responsibility to be a steward of other people's money. To me, that's a moral imperative.
Gotcha.
And so I put that out there to voters on your show because I think the data can help us make better decisions quicker, more timely. I carry a project management certification. I went and got that certification on purpose because I want to be able to help the board in the science of getting work done. So
we're getting down about the 3-minute mark here.
Sure.
So we've already kind of talked about workforce development. I don't know if we need to answer it anymore on 4 or not. It sounds like you get it and want it, and without it, we're going to struggle as a county if our kids aren't trained.
Yep.
So I think so 5 is all right. Well, you can go a little bit into it, but then we're going to talk about, how can we get in touch with Kevin Angel or find out about him on media. But if you want to talk a little bit more about workforce development, if you got anything you want to add, go right ahead.
Yeah, I think it starts too at the top in terms of support for the well-being of our teachers. We got to set the tone that teachers are that's a professional status.
It is.
And treating professionals in a professional way is important. I think that goes back to recognition. You got to recognize the work that people do, and then provide opportunities for them to develop and hone their skills, specialized skills. And those are things that don't necessarily always cost a lot. Peer support within the context of a school system, mentoring, having opportunities for leadership development. That's not do more. That's do different.
Yep.
And do different doesn't always mean cost more.
All right. So I assume you're on Facebook and all the other stuff. You're everywhere. How we find you on Facebook?
That's a great question. So you can find me on Facebook, Kevin Angel for School Board on Facebook. I don't. My social medias are just for my kids and funny videos. So if you want to see my daughters do fun stuff, you can check that out. But that's a whole other conversation we should have about the social media and what's not good about that for young people. But with that being said, if you want to find me, you can go to Kevin Angel for School Board on Facebook, and of course can email or reach out by phone.
Okay, all right. Well, anything else you want to add? Tell us anything. Give us your 1-minute spiel on Kevin Angel.
Yeah. So I would want your audience and voters to know if you vote for me, you're going to vote for somebody who's highly committed to building cohesion and credibility within the context of the school board. I want to work alongside other people. I've spent my whole career working with other people from diverse backgrounds to achieve common goals, whether they report to me or not. Getting work done through other people is difficult. It's a challenge. It takes skill. I've failed at it, and I've succeeded at it, and I've spent a lot of time doing it. And I've had the opportunity to serve on the board. I hope to strengthen the board's ability to get projects across the finish line and to build trust with our community, all stakeholders, teachers, students, everybody involved. The last thing I want to talk about while I have an audience like this is, there's been feedback around some committee work I've done with the Project Management Institute of the Carolinas in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space. And what I want to say to voters about that is, it's like the Roosevelt quote: if you're not in the arena, you can't figure things out. And I just tried to get myself in the arena.
Okay.
And that's what that's about.
All right, Kevin, appreciate you having on the show.
Thank you, Jeff.
More Taking Care of Iredell with North Carolina Representative Jeff McNeely is coming up on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, after a chilly weekend, we're going to start to warm things back up as we head through the work week and staying dry for a while, too. Sunshine today for our Monday as high temperatures climb back into the mid and upper 50s. We'll dip down into the low to mid 30s overnight and 60s on the way as we go into the middle of the week. Our next rain chance not creeping back in until we get later in the work week, Thursday night and into Friday. We'll be warm, too, by then. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Johnson's Parts and Supply, your Auto Plus auto parts store for 42 years, carries a full line of Wix filters for cars, trucks, and all types of heavy-duty equipment. Johnson's Auto Parts, your Auto Plus auto parts store, 1112 Shelton Avenue, Statesville. Make your work easier with Eagle Rentals of Troutman and Statesville. Eagle Rentals has generators, heaters, fans, painting equipment, floor care equipment, pressure washers, lighting equipment, and lawn care equipment. Plus, Eagle Rentals has construction equipment like forklifts, bobcat loaders, backhoes, excavators, and more. Reserve online at eaglerentals.com. That's eaglerentals.com.
Hey, this is Jeff McNeely, owner of G&M Milling Company in beautiful downtown Lowray. We at G&M hope you come by and see us for all your livestock needs. We stock feeds for all kinds of animals and hay too. We also have seed for a wide variety of forages for your animals. So come on by 4000 Taylorsville Highway, Statesville, or call us at 704-873-5758. We're worth the drive. Thank you again for supporting small family-owned businesses. God bless.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Consumer sentiment rose this month for a third month in a row, even though a new read on inflation at the wholesale level was hotter than forecast in January. Prices paid to producers at the core level rose more than expected last month, up 0.5% month over month and nearly 1% year over year. Core prices strip out food and energy, the Fed's preferred method of looking at numbers. Meanwhile, a separate report shows groundbreakings of new homes plummeted last month, with housing starts falling nearly 15%. Economists were expecting no change. Meanwhile, building permits, a sign of future activity, slipped a bit when a slight increase was expected. Nike says it's cutting its global workforce by 2%. That could translate to around 1,600 jobs. The sportswear company's been pushing to reduce costs to counter a weaker sales outlook and more competition. A memo said the cuts will happen in 2 phases. Stocks finished the week lower on Wall Street. The Dow fell 145 points. The Nasdaq lost 131. The S&P lost 24. Erica Herskowitz, Bloomberg Radio.
It's Taking Care of Iredell with NC Representative Jeff McNeely on 105.9 100.7 W. Local starts here.
All right, folks, back here for the second half of the show, and just walked in the door is Courtney Marlowe. Courtney's running for district court judge in the Alexander Iredell district attorney, I guess we'll call it region, if not district again. And we've changed numbers. Our number, are we 30? No, what are we now?
We are 32 now.
32.
We were 22A at one point, and then at one point the prosecutorial district was 32, but the judicial district was 22A still.
Yeah, all right, complicated. You do get a license plate out of this, though. There you go.
That's true.
So anyway, well, all right, Courtney, we got you on here, and I've had sort of set questions and some of this other stuff, but you're probably the only one I'm going to get to interview on this running for district court. So we're just going to talk.
Okay.
We're just going to talk. So who is Courtney Marlowe? Who is she?
Well, I'm pretty boring.
Don't tell people that. She's not. She's exciting.
No, I am born and raised.
A lot about your church. Where did you go to church up there in Alexander? Alexander people, listen now. We need y'all and everybody else too.
No joke. So I go to East Taylorsville Baptist Church.
Yep, right there as you get in town.
Yes, and I have been involved in the children's department ever since I started going there back in 2006. So every Sunday night and Wednesday night, I'm hanging out with the kids from birth to 3 years old.
Oh, right. All right. Well, you kind of like my wife. That I let her do nursery at church, and that saved me at least 2 more kids.
Oh, it's the best.
Yeah.
You love them, and you send them home.
There you go.
It's the best.
There you go. There you go. All right. So you talked a little bit about your education. Tell us a little bit about you're an assistant district attorney under District Attorney Sarah Kirkman. Tell us a little bit about your job as assistant district attorney, maybe some of the bigger cases you've done. Is there anything out there exciting in the catalog of cases that have Courtney Marlowe?
Well, so as an assistant district attorney, when I started in Sarah's office back in 2015, I started in district court, and that entails traffic court. So you get to deal with all the speeding tickets that come through the 2 counties. You see a couple hundred people on those days handling their traffic tickets. You also do regular district court, which can be anything from a speeding ticket to DWI or larceny or some fights. So you
not in the courtroom necessarily, maybe before it.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Not usually in the courtroom. Usually charged before it. But sometimes some tempers can flare in the courtroom, and people are held in contempt for that behavior. And then I have been doing misdemeanor appeals and some felonies in Superior Court since then. I'm actually scheduled to be in private warrant court tomorrow.
Oh, boy.
Which
Can they come to the parking lot of the Board of Elections? Because that's where you've been having to hang out here lately.
That's where I've been lately, but tomorrow I'm scheduled to be in Alexander for private warrant court. Because in North Carolina, a private citizen can go to the magistrate and take out charges on someone as long as the magistrate believes that there's probable cause for that. So that means the victim gets to take out the charges instead of law enforcement.
That used to happen a lot when I was younger. It used to, if somebody got mad at somebody, they went down to the magistrate and made up, I don't want to say they made up charges. Sometimes they were real whatever, but yeah, it's not some more now. It seems like the sheriff's department or some of the police get involved more than it used to be. But so you've been doing that. Now we're looking at being a judge. What made you want to, take a step up from being district attorney, assistant district attorney, to wanting to be a judge? What leads you there?
Well, I truly love the job that I do now. I love being a prosecutor. But it is something that I have thought about off and on for a couple of years. And then Judge Graham is the current judge that sits in the seat that I'm running for. By the time this term is over, he will have been there for 24 years, and he decided to not seek re-election. And so I like I said, I'd thought about it some over the years. I thought about it, I prayed about it, talked about it with some friends and some people that I really appreciate and value their opinions. And so I decided that now was the time. With Judge Graham deciding not to run, it's something I've always been very involved in my community. And this is a different way to be involved in my community, but I love the people that I am in a community with, and I don't want to say that again, say the word community again, but truly it is a different way that I can impact the people around me.
Now, it's kind of unusual, but for this particular judgeship, it has to be somebody that resides in Alexander County.
Yes.
So that kind of narrows the field down, but yet you run in both counties.
Yes.
And, it's, and I know a lot of people up in Alexander County, good people up there, hardworking folks, a lot of my farmers that I sell to and everything. Maybe 40,000, the population in Alexander.
It's pretty close, yeah.
Yeah, somewhere there. And you come down here, and we're 180,000 plus.
So many more people in Iredell County.
So tell us how hard it is to run in 2 counties, but yet living in the smaller county so, not really coming in contact with probably a lot of people in the Mooresville area.
Right.
That's a pretty good little ride from home.
It is.
How difficult has this been?
It has been quite the adventure. So I do know a lot of people in Alexander County, but certainly not 40,000 people in Alexander County. But yeah, so my days are full going back and forth between the two counties. Now, where I live in Alexander County to our main office as a assistant district attorney, our main office is in Statesville. So it's a good 40-minute drive every morning to go to work.
What part of Alexander? Because a lot of people need to know that.
Right.
I mean, there's different little areas up there, just like there are in Iredell.
So I went to Ellendale Elementary. I live in the Little River community, which is sort of in between Ellendale and Sugarloaf.
Okay.
So
how far off of 6490, I guess, is the question.
So I'm sort of in the wedge between 16 north headed to Wilkesboro and 90 headed to Lenore. So
okay.
it's probably 10 to 15 minutes to get to 64.
Not too far from the apple orchards.
Right.
That's the best way to describe it. And
That's true.
If you don't live in Alexander, people know where the apple orchards
That
are
is
and
true.
go up there at least one time a year when it's time to
Yes.
harvest. So anyway, I mean, like I said, you've got to spend a lot of time. Of course, now there's a courtroom in Mooresville.
Right.
I'll always call it at the old hospital.
Yes.
People can call it Government Center South, but. And so you've done a lot of time down there, I'm sure,
Yeah,
because that's where a lot of the traffic court is.
Traffic court is held exclusively in Mooresville
Okay,
now.
I didn't realize that.
Before COVID, we had it there once a month and then in Statesville the other Wednesdays in the month. But once COVID hit and we started back in court, we have had administrative traffic court there every Wednesday because it fits more people.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is there just because of the volume of people that live there, there's more traffic tickets, I guess, issued down there possibly?
Well, yes, probably, but all
Just
traffic.
statistically.
Yes, but all of our traffic court is held in Mooresville because it's a bigger courtroom.
Yeah.
But we do have criminal district court there every Thursday and Friday.
Okay, so you go to Mooresville as part of your job. I don't know how many people you know, but as long as you do this, more people you learn. And I'm sure now you're learning a lot. But Mooresville is kind of a different situation than Statesville and in North Iredell. That's the real unique thing about Iredell, but also difficult as a candidate to reach the people. Alexander, I know there's a segment over at Bethlehem that's Hickory. They're going to go work in Hickory.
Pretty much.
But everybody else is pretty much going to about work in Alexander County, or they're going to maybe come to Iredell to work there on that west side, a lot of the different stuff. So, that makes it kind of a little easier to work the Alexander County side of this, but Iredell's a big county.
Iredell is a very big county, and I've met a lot of great people during this campaign season and before that in my job and just meeting people and knowing people and having people introduce me to their friends. But there are a lot of people I've not had the chance to meet yet, so I'm working on that.
Well, like I said, you only got to meet about, 40,000 people to get there.
It's
so,
nothing.
It's a piece of cake. You'll catch that before the week's out, probably. So
Feels like it.
And the funny thing too, I guess, being from Alexander, it's almost like in politics we always talk about your flank and your rear. It's like battle. Got to watch your left flank and your right flank and your rear so you don't get attacked or ambushed from whatever. And you've had to basically just I don't want to say leave Alexander County, but you're working Iredell because of the population. Because you got to get the votes here. You can't just win Alexander and get away with it.
You could win every vote in Alexander County, but if you don't do well in Iredell, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so that makes it, it's kind of a crazy thing, but I get it because reputation. Let's get it. Reputation's good too. Representation is really important because if all the judges are from Iredell, and not saying that would be a horrible thing, but it's not fair to the people of Alexander County, to not have somebody from there to represent them in this district. So, it's a unique It's a unique situation. And Sarah Kirkman's working the same campaign as you. She runs as district attorney in both Iredell and Alexander County. So it's a big campaign.
It's a lot to do the two counties.
It's a heck of a lot of signs you got to buy and stick out.
It's a lot of signs. It's a lot of people.
Well, you know,
it's a lot of miles.
And so we're going to have to take a break here. We got about 30 seconds, but I think really your job, her job, and that position when running for campaign is probably one of the toughest things because it's just massive, the amount of land you got to cover. Hey, we got Courtney Marlowe, Assistant District Attorney, running for District Judge. Y'all stay tuned. We got a little bit more to talk about here in the last part of the show, so hang with us. All right, till then, see you just in a sec.
There's more Taking Care of Iredell with North Carolina Representative Jeff McNeely on the way from 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Well, after a chilly weekend, we're going to start to warm things back up as we head through the work week and staying dry for a while, too. Sunshine today for our Monday as high temperatures climb back into the mid and upper 50s. We'll dip down into the low to mid 30s overnight and 60s on the way as we go into the middle of the week. Our next rain chance not creeping back in until we get later in the work week, Thursday night and into Friday. We'll be warm, too, by then. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. MuralFest is back, April 25th through the 28th at Wilkes Community College, featuring nearly 100 performers, including Old Crow Medicine Show, Turnpike Troubadours, the Teskey Brothers, Nickel Creek, and more. Tickets and information at muralfest.org. Listen each morning to Good Morning LKN for your chance to win tickets. Downtown Mooresville's Shamrocks and Shenanigans is on its way. St. Patty's Day is right around the corner. The festival is happening in downtown Mooresville. Attendance is free, but there are ticket packages available for purchase. Irish dancers, pipe bands, food and drinks. March 16th, downtown Mooresville. Shamrocks and Shenanigans is on its way. For more info, visit downtownmooresville.com. Want to attend the Charlotte Home and Remodeling Show? Throughout the day, you have your chance to win tickets. Listen to Good Morning LKN, the Home Ad Show, the News Drive at 5, and the Scoreboard. Each gives you your chance to win. The Charlotte Home and Remodeling Show, February 23rd through the 25th. Want to see a Tyrannosaurus Rex? How about a Triceratops? Dinosaur World Live is coming to Kane Center for the Arts Friday, March 29th. That's not the only fun family adventure coming to Kane Center for the Arts. Dinosaur World Live, Friday, March 29th. For tickets and to see the entire spring lineup, visit canearts.org. That's CAINarts.org. Have an event you would like to tell people about? Yard sales, estate sales, and everything in between? Visit WSICnews.com and click on events to submit your event today.
Taking Care of Iredell continues. Here's your host, NC Representative Jeff McNeely on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
All right. Back here for the last part of the show, folks. I think it's been pretty entertaining so far. We had Kevin Angel on first. Now we got Courtney Marlowe on. She's running for district court judge in Iredell and Alexander. So we've talked a little bit about the size of the campaign and the work that you got to put forth, you know. And I guess the first question is, now that you've been in it and you've been standing out on the asphalt and seeing how brutal this is, would you still do it?
I would.
Okay, well then, hey folks, she's committed. She's like the rest of us. She's crazy, but it's a good crazy because you need people like that are willing to get out there and actually put in the time and the effort. They want the job, and that's what you want. You want people that want this job. It's not easy. Getting elected is not easy, and then, you know, you're going to step into the courtroom and you're going to make decisions. And I always say, if you do a really, really good job, probably both sides are mad, but definitely one side's not going to be happy after it's over with, even though they probably knew they were in the wrong.
Yep, that's true. You can't make everybody happy.
Well, you know, and I know you're going to look at the facts and you're going to examine them and the procedure that the lawyers went about doing it. Is everything there? That's the one thing a lot of people don't think about. Judges have to consider, what did this case work like it's supposed to, or did somebody not do their job, not represent right, or misrepresent, or done what? But after all that's said and done, a lot of this is what's molded you over life or whatever that helps you. So what's kind of your mindset when you become a judge, if you get it, that's going to really lead you on how your decision making will be in cases? Because I think that's important to know,
Well, so I'm a conservative Christian from a small town, and my values have shaped me over the years. As a judge, you definitely have experiences that you bring into the courtroom with you. But it sounds like a real novel idea, but I plan to follow the law. Which
that's going to be a good thing, I
right?
believe. It's going to work out for you.
I have had a judge in the past tell me when I was asking for a statutory fine that they were changing the law. I said, I feel
I
like
could have swore that was my job.
I feel like a legislature might have something to say about that. But okay, thank you, Judge, because what else? I mean, you can argue, but ultimately they are the decision maker. So that is something that's always been in the back of my mind as a prosecutor. So that's something that if I am able to take the bench, that's something that I will always consider, that we have to follow the law. We may not always like the law. We may not always agree with the law, but I am running for a seat as a judge, not a legislator. So I don't get to make the rules. I just get to make sure that we are following the rules.
Well, I like that. That sounds good to me from my side of the street, because what I don't want is a judge to end up changing the law to fit their narrative. Your job is to interpret it, but not interpret it more than what is already written. It's mainly to understand it and to bring about the right decisions from the law. My job and the legislator's job is to provide you the framework and the ability to work inside it. Now, one thing I've heard a lot about, and I think it's something that we as legislators are going to have to work with AOC, and believe me, that's the Administrative Office of the Courts, folks. It's not the crazy woman up in Washington, D.C., but we always use abbreviations and acronyms around here. So AOC, on bails, because a lot of what's happened is with a great Biden economy, we've watched land and house and home prices and whatnot raise astronomically, and on secured bond, you've got to put up, and that's really important. We may go in a little bit about secured and unsecured, but that's a little long thing. But secured bond means they've got to have the monetary ability to cover whatever number with some kind of personal property. And so used to, and we haven't changed the bond structure, I bet you, in 10 years. Maybe longer.
Probably. I honestly can't remember when our local bond guidelines were put into place, but it's not changed in the 9 years that I've been there. I couldn't tell you for sure when it was put into place.
I can't either tell you the truth, but I think it's something we're going to have to go back and look at, because what used to be a $150,000 house is now a $300,000 house, and you may set a bond and think,
they can't make that.
They can't make that. We're safe from this craziness in society. Next thing you know, they're out.
Yep. And something that has changed recently that the legislature did put into place is new not bond guidelines, but there are certain cases that if someone is charged with a new crime and they're already out on bond, it's something that a district court judge sets their bond.
Right.
And usually instead of a magistrate. And there are certain crimes that will always go before a district court judge instead of a magistrate. And that gives everybody a chance, because the magistrate's seeing a lot of the same information, but once we're able to run a record, you may have some more facts in front of you for a district court judge to consider. And at that point, a district court judge gets to set the bond, and like I said, may have a little bit more information than the magistrate did. So that's, and they're able to consider the fact that they're out on bond for something else, and if it's the same type of crime. So that's something that has changed here recently, and I think has changed a little bit of how the bond process works, but also the numbers that are given for bonds.
Don't you think it's caused the bonds to go up, which in my opinion is not a bad thing?
I think for a lot of cases they have gone up.
Yeah, but understand this, folks, that there's a range.
Right.
There's a range for every kind of felony, misdemeanor. There's a range that a different heinous crime falls into, or whatever crime it is. And so that's something I really think we're going to have to talk about and do an adjustment. And that's something you will get, and we will do, and we will work together, the court systems and the legislature, try to figure that out. So I think that's going to be a good thing. As long as values have increased, we've got to follow along with them, because that's kind of what we looked at. A lot of it we looked at, well, okay, it's going to take somebody with a good bit of money to be able to bond out, or know somebody to have that's going to put it up to bond out on secured. Now, unsecured,
right?
It's Katie bar the door there.
Yep.
To a point. So always remember, folks, talk to your magistrates, judges. If you're involved in a heinous crime, make sure they at least give them a secured bond. Ask for the secured. Then they got to know somebody that's willing to put their home up, which is not always a fun thing to do for somebody that's notoriously bad.
It is a real commitment for someone to put their home up.
Yeah, Ma and Paul might be homeless after this is over with if Junior decides to amstray.
Yep.
Or doesn't do what he's supposed to. So it's interesting. It's interesting, but I like the part that I hear that you're going to just actually follow the law.
Right.
That's a unique thing that we've watched. So many times on the federal, but also I've seen it in Superior Court, and a lot of it depends on the county. So that's why we want to know. Alexander County, I always consider it to be a fairly conservative county, much like Iredell. Good people, most of them Christian-based beliefs, Judeo-Christian-based. And so knowing that gives me a sense of security, knowing that we think a lot alike.
Right.
And I think we're gonna understand the same and feel the same and be at the same conclusion when it's done. All right, we got about 2.5 minutes, something like that. Give us your 2-minute speech, and we haven't really brought up your opponent, and I never really say names. I always allow people to do whatever, but you may want to tell us a little bit about why Courtney Marlowe is the better choice, maybe. And,
all right.
And let's hear what you got. Give me your 2-minute why I vote for Courtney Marlowe.
Well, like I said, I'm born and raised in Alexander County. I am from the area. I care about the community. I'm involved in my community. I started in the district attorney's office 9 years ago. One reason, because I wanted to work closely with law enforcement. And I realized that as a judge, my role would be different than it is right now as a prosecutor. And there are certainly things that I'm going to have to learn if I'm able to take the bench. But I am prepared to learn those things, and I am prepared to do the best that I can for Alexander and Iredell counties. I'm not going to say anything bad about my opponent, because I'm sure she's a great person. I have worked with her in the past. But I think that I am the best candidate because I plan to follow the law. I plan to work hard until the day is done. And I just appreciate the opportunity to represent both Alexander and Iredell counties. And I want to be your next district court judge.
Well, and one thing I think maybe you touched on some and didn't. You've told how many, but you have courtroom experience.
I do.
And I do not, and I could be wrong, but I do not think that your opponent does. So they would be kind of starting from zero to a point as far as courtroom experience, and sitting there judging a case, that might be unusual.
Right. So I honestly don't know what experience she has. So I'm not going to speak on that necessarily, but
okay. I could be told wrong. I could be told wrong, but that's what I was told.
I will tell you that I have been in district and superior courts for years. I have tried cases. I'll probably try a couple of cases tomorrow. I'm not afraid to take those facts and put them before a judge. And I'm looking forward to being the judge in that equation in the future. But I have tried cases. I'm not afraid to try cases, and I won't be afraid to listen to cases as a judge.
Well, and like I said, someday there'll be that jump, maybe if you get this to Superior Court, and then that's when the murder cases
right.
and the rapes and the whatever, but you're going to be working with the same people you kind of been working with.
Right.
So you're just going to be in a different capacity. Now you're going to settle the case instead of argue it.
That is my goal. Yes, sir.
Right. Well, I hope it does well for you. All right, folks, Courtney Marlowe running for District Court Judge, Iredell and Alexander. Let me say a quick prayer for us. Dear Heavenly Father, dear Lord, I pray you be with us. Pray you be with all the candidates that are running. And, Lord, I know you're going to choose who will be there. And I just pray, Lord, that it works out in your way and your time. Pray all this in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Folks, tune in next week. We got some good stuff coming. Till then, see ya. Take care.
You've been listening to North Carolina Representative Jeff McNeely. Join Jeff again next Monday morning at 11:05 for Taking Care of Iredell on News Talk WSIC.